Hello guys. In this video we will discuss about the usage of functions in C++. Now all this while in this tutorial series we have always written the code inside this main function, and you know that by now that this is kind of an entry point, but not necessary that we have to write each and everything inside this main function itself. The whole and sole purpose of bringing in functions is that they need to do something very specific. They need to do one particular task. Let's say you have uh, a logic wherein you are taking some inputs from the user and you're doing some calculations based on the user's inputs, and then after your calculations is done you kind of have a logic that will nicely output that into the terminal or into some other form of an output or some form of an UI. Now if you take a look at this, that there are like so many things going on, and everything being put inside one single main function is kind of not so good. So you have the ability or the approach wherein you can break down these operations into separate functions. And another important usage of the functions would be that there will be some operations that you might want to do repeatedly, or something that will be something that you will be doing very often, something that's common. So every time you want to do that, it doesn't make sense to write the same set of code again and again and again. So if you can have one single function where you have written that code, and whenever you want that particular functionality to occur or that particular section of the code to run, you can just invoke or you can just call that particular function. So this is a bit of an idea about the functions in C++. So let's see how we can do that at the moment. So what I'm going to do is we have the main function over here. So let's declare something called as function one. So there is a particular syntax for the function, and we will be discussing about that as well. So the way this works is a function, it kind of takes a return type. So and also a function name, and then you kind of have a common bracket like this and a flower bracket. So everything that is there within this flower brackets is what that belongs to that particular function. So this is the function one that I have written, and you can provide any name. Something meaningful is recommended always. So whatever code that you write within this flower brackets will be considered as part of that particular function. And what this is telling is that when you execute something, or when you execute all the logic inside that, should it return something, should it return some kind of value after all. Let's say you have a function where you're doing some calculation, so the result of your calculation is something the one the user might be interested in, or the one who has called that function will be waiting for. So you need to return your final output or final result back from to the place where it was invoked. So that's where the return type comes into picture, and that's how you tell that this is the return type. So when you don't want to return something, or when you know that nothing is going to be returned, you can just tell void. Void basically means that there will be nothing that is going to be returned from this particular function. um, but if you want to be returning something, you have to be specific, that you can tell that you want. Let's say you want to write an integer. Now the moment I change it to integer, you can see an error over here that um, it's expecting something to be returned. So you will have to kind of return one, and now it's all okay. And similarly, if you just change from this int to void, and then you save it, and again you can see that there is an error already over here. So you're telling nothing will be returned, but you're returning one, so that's not expected. So that's the significance of this section over here, that you tell what the return type is. Whether if you tell void, it's not going to return anything, and if you want to return something very specific, you can specify that particular data type over here. So that's the return type, and then you will have a name for that particular function, and what you have inside this common bracket. Currently it is blank, but let's say now usually the way this works is, from you will end up calling this particular function from this function. So let's say you want to pass something to this particular function over here. So the way for you to communicate from this function to this function is that you can pass some arguments. So that is next thing that you can add over here, that as an argument over here, and not necessary that you can have only one argument. You can have multiple arguments also over here. So there is no rule that you can have only one argument as such. You can have any number of or multiple arguments. So now you kind of have declared a function. This like kind of looks like the function signature over here. So you have a return type. So whenever someone looks at this part of the code, what they know already is that, okay, we have a function which is whose name is function1, and whoever wants to use this particular function, they need to pass two arguments, that is of the type integers. And now this function is not going to return anything. So this is the amount of information one will get when they look at this part of the code. What we do inside that is something you can do, write any C++ logic inside that particular function. Let's say we can do something like received arguments. We can tell that we have received some arguments, and what we can tell is that um, argument 1 that we have received is think we can tell variable, and then the argument 2 that we have received is this. So this is the way you can write the logic. And now how do we call that particular function? How do we invoke? So let's invoke this particular function from the main function now. So what you need to do is that you should not specify the return type when you're invoking. All you need to do is tell the name of that function. Okay, this is the function I want to call. And if you just do this much, you can see some error over here. So what it tells is too few arguments in function call. So why this is happening is that you are calling this function, the name is right, but as you know, this particular function expects two arguments, which we are not providing in this case. So that is why it is giving an error. So we have to provide two arguments. So let's pass 5623, and let's see if it works fine. So just to explain the logic over here, main function will be the entry point. This will be executed. We have a function 1 which takes two arguments, 56 and 23. So the moment function 1 is read, we know that there is a function 1 that we have defined here. So 56 will be passed through variable, 23 will be passed to the argument, and then this will execute. This line will execute. After this line executes, the control will come back here to a function 1. So it doesn't return anything, we don't do, and then we end. So that's going to be the flow. So let's execute this and see the output. So yeah, this line is executing received arguments, argument 1 as 56 and argument 2 as 23. So now you can see this for the first time, that we have written a new function and define what it does, some logic inside that, take some arguments, and we passed some value from the main function to this function through the form of arguments, and it was received there, and we were able to print as well. So this is the basic usage of functions. Let's meet in the next video.